Entire History of Football. Part 1. Ancient Origins of Football. 15-minute documentary narration. Long before football became the world's most popular sport, long before stadiums, referees, and cheering crowds, human beings were already fascinated by one simple idea: kicking a ball. The ancient origins of football reveal that the desire to play, compete, and entertain through ball games is deeply embedded in human history. Across different continents and civilizations, people developed games that closely resemble what we now recognize as football. The earliest and most clearly documented ancestor of football comes from ancient China, during the Han Dynasty, around 206 BCE. This game was called Cuju, which literally translates to kick ball. Cuju was played with a leather ball stuffed with feathers or animal hair, and the objective was to kick the ball through a small opening in a net stretched between bamboo poles. Importantly, players were not allowed to use their hands, a rule that strongly connects Cuju to modern football. Cuju was not merely a recreational activity. It played an important role in Chinese society, particularly in military training. Soldiers practiced Cuju to improve physical fitness, balance, coordination, and discipline. Over time, the game evolved into a popular form of entertainment enjoyed by both the elite and common people. Historical records describe organized matches, referees, and even early forms of professional players. Some versions of Cuju were highly competitive, while others were more artistic, focusing on skill and elegance rather than goals. As Chinese culture flourished, Cuju became embedded in festivals, royal courts, and public gatherings. Female players were also known to participate, making it one of the earliest sports with documented women's involvement. Because of its structure, rules, and objective, historians widely regard Cuju as the closest ancient predecessor of modern football. While Cuju thrived in China, other civilizations were independently developing their own ball games. In ancient Greece, a game known as Episkairos was played as early as the 4th century BCE. This game involved two teams attempting to throw or kick a ball over their opponent's boundary lines. Unlike Cuju, Episkairos allowed the use of hands and was much more physical. However, it emphasized teamwork, positioning, and strategy, concepts still fundamental to football today. The Greeks viewed sports as a vital part of education and citizenship, and ball games were commonly played in gymnasiums. Episkairos matches could be intense, sometimes resembling a combination of football and rugby. Although it lacked standardized rules, the game contributed to the broader tradition of team-based ball sports in Europe. When the Roman Empire absorbed Greek culture, it adopted and modified Episkairos into a new game called Harpastum. Harpastum was fast-paced, aggressive, and physically demanding. Players fought for possession of a small ball, often engaging in tackles and scrums. Roman soldiers played Harpastum across the empire, from Britain to North Africa, helping spread ball games throughout Europe. Although Harpastum was more violent than modern football, it played a crucial role in introducing ball sports to regions that would later become central to football's development. The Roman emphasis on competition, teamwork, and physical endurance influenced the sporting cultures of medieval Europe long after the empire collapsed. Beyond Europe and Asia, ball games also held deep cultural and religious significance in the ancient Americas. Civilizations such as the Maya, Aztecs, and Olmecs played ceremonial ball games using rubber balls, some of the earliest rubber balls ever created. These games were often played on stone courts and were linked to mythology, politics, and religion. In some cases, the outcome of the game was believed to influence cosmic balance, harvests, or divine favor. Players sometimes used their hips, knees, or feet to control the ball, though the rules differed greatly from football. While these games were not direct ancestors of modern football, they demonstrate that ball games were a global human tradition, deeply tied to culture and identity. As ancient civilizations declined, ball games did not disappear. Instead, they transformed and adapted to new societies. In medieval Europe, especially in England, football-like games emerged that reflected local traditions. These games had almost no formal rules. Entire villages would compete against one another, with goals placed at distant landmarks such as churches, bridges, or town gates. Medieval football matches were chaotic and unpredictable. There were no limits on the number of players, and matches could last for hours or even days. Physical violence was common, and injuries were frequent. Despite this, The game was incredibly popular among ordinary people, serving as both entertainment and a release from the hardships of medieval life. The chaos of medieval football alarmed authorities. English kings repeatedly attempted to ban the game. In 1314, King Edward II issued a proclamation forbidding football in London, calling it a source of disorder and violence. Later rulers, including Henry IV and Henry VIII, also imposed bans, arguing that football distracted men from practicing archery, which was essential for national defense. Despite these efforts, football survived. The repeated bans only proved how deeply the game was loved by the population. Football was passed down through generations, evolving slowly as communities developed their own local rules and traditions. By the late Middle Ages and early modern period, football began to appear in schools and universities. Different institutions played different versions of the game, some allowing hand use and others focusing on kicking. This diversity laid the groundwork for the eventual division between football and rugby centuries later. What makes the ancient origins of football remarkable is not just where the game was played, but why it endured. Across cultures, football-like games fulfilled essential human needs: competition, cooperation, physical expression, and social bonding. Whether used for military training in China, ritual ceremony in the Americas, or communal celebration in medieval England, the game always brought people together. These early forms of football were imperfect, unregulated, and often dangerous, but they carried the spirit that defines the modern game: passion, skill, and unity. Without Cuju, Episkairos, Harpastum, and medieval football, modern football would not exist. By the time football entered the modern era, it already carried thousands of years of human history within it. The ancient origins of football remind us that when we watch a match today, we are witnessing the continuation of a tradition that began long before written history in many parts of the world. This ancient foundation set the stage for football's transformation into an organized sport during the 19th century, a transformation that would change the game forever. Please subscribe for Part 2.